Welcome to the Social Podcast, where no discussion or debate is off limits.
I'd like to kick off the show by saying welcome to the Social. Happy Monday. That's where you go, yay. And it is International Nurses Day. And I would like to say a huge shout out. It kicks off Nurses Week. We are absolutely indebted to nurses across this country, up, down, and sideways. Any nurses in the house today?
Yay!
Yes. So a shout out to all the nurses who are here and across the country watching. Thank you. She's back, journalist Farah Nasser, sitting right next to me. Welcome back. Okay, who's ready to kick off the show? All right. If you've been watching the news at all, you probably heard a little bit or a lot of talk about Alberta wanting to separate lately. Have you heard about this? New polling suggests that most Albertans have little appetite to actually leave Canada, 36% saying they want to separate. That's according to Angus Reid. And yet, Premier Danielle Smith has now made it a little bit easier to trigger a referendum asking that very question. So what do you make of all of this growing separatist discourse in Alberta? Is it all talk, and what do we feel? Alberta, we love you for the record. What do we think? What do you think?
You know, I know this might be not popular to say in this room, but this is not just a few grumpy voices in the back room. This is a chunk of the Alberta population, right? And I think we have to understand why they're feeling this way. They don't feel like their voices matter. Think about this recent election, right? By the time we got to Alberta, the election was essentially decided, right? So they feel like their opinion, their voices don't matter. They also feel like their livelihood, which is oil, which is the flashpoint in all of this, right, is not taken seriously in the sense that the infrastructure isn't there to support the export of oil. So they feel like they're being left behind. The decisions in Ottawa are not reflective of what they see. And so I think whether you agree with them or not, I think we have to listen to them. We have to listen to their frustration. I think it's really important.
So but you want them to separate?
Of course I don't.
No.
Of course I don't want them to separate. But I also don't want to dismiss how they feel. I know it's easy to be like, oh, they're just, you know, but I think we have to listen to them.
Yeah,
We've seen history tell us that, you know.
We definitely don't want to dismiss, but don't you think the timing of this reignited debate is very interesting? Because this conversation wasn't happening in December when Danielle Smith felt very confident that Pierre Poilievre was going to win the election. And now just a couple weeks after Mark Carney wins, now we're having this debate again. And perhaps it feels a little bit like you're a bit of a sore loser. You didn't get what you wanted, and now you're like, you know what, we want to leave. And that's how it comes off to me. I don't know anybody else, but it feels like that because they weren't having this discussion. Danielle wasn't talking this way in December.
But this is a long time thing.
I know,
like,
it's
this
been
is
going
not
on,
the
but
separate years, decades. Alberta's been talking about it.
Exit as a thing has existed for
it has
years.
existed, but
thinking that it has been a thing in other provinces. If you think about Quebec, like I'm old enough to remember a couple of them, big ones in my lifetime. And the 95 one, it got so close. It was like 50 point something to 49 point something. They stayed, but you know, I wonder if the whole point of this, of Alberta sort of being like, hey, let's conduct some polls and see where we are, is to get to your point, to listen, because we're all kind of sitting up and being like, okay, let's listen.
Is this a bit of a Trump playbook move?
I don't
like
know.
you know, Trump decided I'm going to tariff the world and put everybody on our heels. We freaked out, and then it's a negotiating tactic to actually get people to listen.
I actually am surprised, hear me out, that it doesn't happen more often. Like across if you think about Canada, we are relatively speaking a young country, and we're a massive country, and we have multitudes of people who have always lived here, and we have multitudes of people who have come from every corner of the earth, and we live together in borders, and we have a nation, which are all sort of human constructs, and we generally get along. And that, to me, sort of blows my mind. Like, generally, this goes well. So the fact that, you know, once in a while, Quebec, Alberta, it doesn't go well, it's like, okay, that it makes sense to me.
I think the bigger problem and the reason, because why don't states want to separate? Why? Because that's a big country too, right?
Yeah.
Like the Midwest is very different from New York, for example. So why? For us, I think it's because we don't have a national identity like Americans do.
Interesting.
So we have all these different provinces. Like people are very different in Quebec than they are in Alberta, in BC. We're also different, but we need something to kind of unite.
I think it's been happening since a guy named Trump got into office.
I think Donald Trump did that for us back in January and got us us all on the same page and our elbows up. I think that happened definitely. It was a total difference in our attitude towards
But I don't want to ignore Trump's influence in all of this because I think the timing, to your point, Andrea, is interesting because I think now is the best time ever for us to listen to Alberta because something called interprovincial trade is hopefully going to open up. They say by July the 1st, we're going to drop all of the nonsense so that we can easily do business with each other. So hopefully Premier Danielle Smith is going to get something that she does want, which is to not just get her oil out, but to get it across our country. You know, I mean, let's drop
Isn't that the conversation that she should be putting on the table?
But
feels like a
I
conversation
think we also cannot ignore people. Like, look what happened in the MAGA movement, right? People who were ignored, they don't just go away quietly. These movements become bigger and bigger and bigger. We have to also pay attention to this. And have some humility a little bit and say, look, okay, what are your concerns? How can we address them? Because we're one Canada, and right now, as you pointed out, it is more important than ever to not fight internally. We need to fight externally.
It's true. Let's move on, shall we?
Let's do it. All right. So, how pushy do you get when you don't get what you want? Okay. Tom Cruise revealed at a British film festival that he wouldn't have starred in Rain Man if his sister hadn't forced him to introduce himself to Dustin Hoffman at a restaurant. So the question is, how pushy do you need to be to get what you want?
What do you think, audience? Pushy, not pushy?
Pushy?
Okay.
Pushy?
All right, I think there's a fine line between pushy and obnoxious. And if you don't have a very high EQ, you'll get it wrong and it will backfire on you. That story about Tom Cruise and his sister is very cute, but I have a million stories of people who were too pushy and no one ever tells them to their face, but it is totally backfired and there's so many doors that are now closed to them because of what they did. And I'll tell you something, this industry that we work in is very competitive, as we all know. And you know, people do a lot of crazy things to kind of push their way into a job. And there was one particular reporter who wanted a job and she found out that the person doing the hiring was getting married. So she came up with an idea, because she was very pushy, that she was going to show up at his wedding reception with her demo tape and resume and present it to him while he was sitting at the head table. Now, in her mind, she thought that that was a great move. Like, I'm going to stand out. But for everybody else, it was like, what were you thinking? So again, fine line between pushy and obnoxious, and if you don't
know, a fine line.
You'll ruin your own reputation. You'll ruin your own reputation.
Obvious line.
She did the opposite. I think I think for me that fine line is bringing value, right? If you can show the person that you bring value to them. So I'll give you an example. I didn't get into university. Yeah, so I didn't get into the university I wanted, and I was so confident and young, and I thought this university would accept me. It was TMU, formerly Ryerson, and it was the journalism program. I'd already been on TV, so I was like, they're gonna accept me, no problem.
Yeah.
So I, and such a lesson in humility, I didn't get in. I was number 12th on the waiting list, and my parents, if I didn't get in, like this was my only way to get to university. Can you imagine? So what I did was every single day, I took the subway to Yonge and Dundas, and I dropped off a new demo tape or a new letter from Hazel McCallion, bless her, letter of recommendation, or whatever I could get my hands on every single day that summer. And I was 12th, and I got in.
Oh my God!
And I ended up going to university.
You know what? Right? You just reminded me of very similar. You wore them down.
You wore them down, Farah. Here you are.
She won't stop coming. We have to let her in.
I applied to teachers' college, and I was shocked that I didn't get in. And you know what I did? Nothing. It takes a whole bunch of different personalities to make this world go around.
Look at you sitting side by side. It all worked out in the end.
Okay. You know what? I mean, listen, I hate to always do this, but it does make me think that there's a gender component to this, because in this story, it was the sister who was pushing Tom. Like, Tom, you're Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Go introduce yourself to Dustin Hoffman, right? And he was like, no. And usually you hear it's women that, we feel like we lack the confidence, or our self-assessment is like, you hear this story all the time. Women not applying for the job because we don't think we have 100% of the qualifications.
Right.
But a guy will apply when he has like 50% of the qualifications.
Not even 50.
No offense, gentlemen.
No
offense, but there is a confidence gap. And I was surprised to hear this, because to me, I was like, well, what does Tom Cruise have to lose? This is called networking. The old boys club works because they network like this all the time. Ladies, I think we need to get confident, and we need to get comfortable with being a little pushy. Otherwise, no one ain't giving you anything for free.
But stay out of the wedding reception.
Yes. Just don't go to the wedding reception.
Receptions, please.
That is a definite lesson here. We are helping people. We are helping people here today on the show.
if you live next to a school or playground, do you have a right to complain if it gets noisy? Okay.
What?
Amsterdam Sports Advisory Council says the sound of children frolicking in playgrounds during regular hours should not be considered a nuisance. What's wrong with people? So what's happening to the world that this is what we're complaining about? So where do you stand with this, ladies?
First of all, I love the word frolicking.
Yeah, that's a great word.
Let the children frolic.
I am so enraged by this story. It is making my blood boil because if anybody knows anything about this generation, they have been coined the indoors generation.
Yeah.
They are stuck inside. If you read Jonathan Haidt's The Anxious Generation, he estimates that kids are indoors on screens 8 to 10 hours a day. Okay, that is called a full-time job. Okay, whatever it takes to get kids outside, moving their bodies and off screens and playing with other kids. Get off the kids' back.
Yes.
Let them make
Yes,
waves.
I totally agree.
Wait, I'm not defending.
Are you
I know,
sure?
no,
I'm
really
I'm
worried
not
where this is gonna
defending.
go.
Hot, Andrea.
I'm just saying that
Let's see.
they are probably in favor of those things.
Yes.
They just want them to do it a little quieter.
Okay, here's the thing.
Is that too? Is that?
No, it's kids and it's playing. I totally agree with Mel. That being said, is
Go
it
for it,
just
Jess.
me or do kids today like cry a little more and a little louder? No, it's just me. Like when you're at a
your
playground,
ears change.
You're like you're at a playground. You're a kid. What's there to cry about?
They want screen time. That's what they're crying about.
They want their iPad.
Yeah, they want their iPads. You know what? I don't think it's unreasonable to ask for that piece. And it's funny because I'm a mom too, and part of this arrangement, part of me is getting older, and
noise.
some of the screaming is really driving me crazy.
I don't mind the screaming and the play. Like, as you say, that is like such a beautiful sound when you hear that. Kids playing.
Playing and laughing and
Babies,
frolicking,
no, no.
yes.
Laughing and the
Babies,
Yelling, maybe no.
Babies giggling is a very sweet noise.
crying.
Children shrieking in a schoolyard if you're having a bad day. Again, I'm gonna take it. Maybe we just turn it down a little
Here's
bit.
the thing, though. This is why, I hate to say this about Toronto, this is why we have a bad reputation. Because in some places, they have outlawed kids playing in the streets. We have
Yeah,
lost
yeah.
the plot.
That's a
okay?
problem.
You want to play ball hockey in the street? Play ball hockey in the
Yeah.
street. This is why people look at Toronto and say, what is wrong with you people? Okay?
Yeah.
Albertans are probably...
Yeah,
That's exactly what Alberta's saying.
This is why they want to separate.
Yeah, they're like, you guys. Yeah.
This is it. No, they
See,
are
I
letting
hear
their
you,
children
Alberta.
play. The other part is if you move in the vicinity, if the school and the playground was there first and you buy the property,
Yeah.
you got no right to
knew-
complain.
You knew what you were in
You got
for.
no right to
Come on.
complain.
But if the daycare comes after, do I get to write a nice little email?
Daycare's a little different because, they're in and out, and actually they're inside a lot in daycares, I find, if they're even lucky to
Yeah,
have
and
the
the
Not the
space.
one near my
daycare
house.
laugh is cute. Like those are
Daycare
cute.
laugh is
yeah.
cute.
Yeah.
I like
it's
your
not like preteen.
You sound like
yeah.
a mom. It's cute, is it?
Cute.
We'll go with that.
Okay.
Okay, let's change topic since I won that debate. The good folks at the Toronto Star looked into whether you need to put the toilet lid down while you're flushing. Turns out there wasn't much consensus among microbiologists, although one of them brought up the tricky issue of toilet plumage, a cloud of invisible droplets of punami, if you will. So what say you?
No,
Do you
that's
guys?
a different
Did you just say
thing.
punami?
No, I said punami.
That's not what we heard.
Wow,
That's not what I
you
heard,
said
but okay.
something else.
Yeah, I think you said something else.
I'm not born yesterday. I said punami.
Okay, we're gonna leave
Our
it there.
boss is like,
We're
stop saying it all together.
We're gonna leave it there.
So what say you? Toilet lid up and then flush, or toilet lid down and then flush? Down.
Listen to the nurses.
Has nobody heard of a courtesy flush?
What's a courtesy?
Oh,
flush?
I've heard of
I
that.
know what a courtesy, that's different though.
What
I
is
flush
that?
midway.
But that,
Yeah, but that's different.
But isn't that splashing onto your bits?
I'd rather it's flush on my bits than my toothbrush.
yeah, oh, fair.
Right?
Fair.
I don't know. I courtesy flush. I don't want it to stink in the washroom, so
Yeah.
I do that. And then, when there's a little bit left, I don't know. Am I the only one?
So
No,
much
I do it
money.
midway through.
I fully support. I call it a mercy flush.
Okay.
Yes, have mercy. And no, but here's the thing: it's the poo sparkle, which you said another word. I call it poo sparkle,
Yeah.
which is they say if you leave it up and then flush, that there is a poo sparkle. sprinkles. You see, I'm trying to make it sound nicer than what it actually is.
Yeah.
And that's when they say it is going to land on things like your toothbrush,
it's disgusting.
towels, or what have you.
Yeah.
But I will say I'm less concerned about that than like even walking outside and breathing the air that's on the street. I mean,
Well,
if
maybe
we're
that's
getting
what
real
the microbiologists were like, you know,
the
it's
things to
like
worry about
of
this,
all
isn't
the
it?
things.
As long as you're washing your hands, right? Like as long as people are
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
The nurses are like, yes, please.
Nurses like wash
Wash
your
your
hands.
hands.
You're washing
Always
your
wash your hands.
In my household, I grew up, and we always had the lid down, but it wasn't about hygiene because we didn't know about the sprinkle yet.
Yeah.
It was about the decor. I'm gonna show my age. I don't know if you guys had the same situation in your bathrooms growing up. Do you remember having like a matching toilet
Carpet.
seat cover
Yes.
and the rug like this?
Yes.
Right? So the lid was always down because you had to show the matching set.
That's right.
And this one doesn't show, but sometimes it would also be a cover for the lid in the back, and then there would be a dolly in a big dress.
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
right,
where
like
you
this
had
thing
the
here.
extra bit of toilet paper.
Right, right,
do
So
right.
remember
it was
this.
always down because you had to show people how nice your bathroom was. And now, thinking about all that carpet material and all the sprinkle matter, it's disgusting.
Capturing it. It's like holding on to
It's
it.
holding on
Like
to
you
it.
Velcro.
You bring up
Yes.
something. Isn't this a new phenomenon? Because I don't remember this existing growing up with the toilet seat down for the microbiology spraying and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I've picked it up recently. Like, so I can adapt quickly. And if you're at a person's place and they have their toilet seat down, I know, okay, this is the new thing. This is what I'm gonna do. But I feel like I'm too far gone to start it at my own home. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Too late to change.
you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Simon will be like, who? Where am I living? Where am I?
Yeah,
It'll be
exactly.
Yeah.
And how long have the lids been around? Because I have actually seen many toilets that don't have any lids. So what is that about?
Really?
No, if you go to a public washroom, they don't have lids.
There's none in our.
Yeah, but that's-
Y'all went to our
public.
bathroom. There are no
Public
lids.
washrooms, sure.
No.
But in homes,
They need
there's
lids.
I will
They need
passive
lids.
aggressively slam every lid if they're left up. Just
Okay, have any of you,
close it.
this just blew my mind about something. Have any of you been on a train in India? Has anybody gone to
No.
the washroom?
No.
Okay, let me just tell you how it works. So there's one of the compartments is a washroom compartment, and the toilet is basically a hole. So you hold on while the
Damn.
train is moving.
That is so
And
cool.
your stuff goes down to the people, they know. It
where?
goes down to the tracks.
To the tracks.
So you're not getting any because it's like a kilometer away by the time you're like,
That-
wiping. It's amazing.
That is incredible.
I don't know how I
and
feel
you're
about
not
that.
sitting on anything, which I love. That's
You're not
why
sitting,
I
no,
love
you're
like
standing and doing it.
some of the
Yeah.
old Italian.
Does gravel come back up the hole? Like if they hit something on the track,
I
does it
don't
come
remember
up the
gravel
hole?
coming back up. I think I just did number one, but yeah, it was quite
This is a
ingenious.
very enlightening segment.
Sorry,
Between
guys.
Nani
Maybe this was a bit off topic.
didn't know
sorry.
where
and the
we would
moving
go with
train, I don't
that.
know where to
Yeah.
go.
Fascinating.
That is a new
Really?
bucket list for me.
Yeah.
Going on a train
In India.
I'm going to do that.
Absolutely.
I'm going to
We
do
are-
that.
We are changing lives today. We are changing lives. Well, in a piece for British Vogue, a writer argues that life is just far too short to finish that bad TV show. She says instead of viewing quitting as a failure, see it as your reminder that you can, in fact, exercise your free will. Should we be normalizing quitting things early? Yay or nay?
What do you guys
Yay or
think?
nay?
Yay or nay? Yay?
Yeah,
I completely agree. I especially with television shows lately, you know, when they drop many episodes at one time, and you know, you'll give an hour of your life over to this. Maybe you'll give 2 hours of your life over to this, and then you quit because it's not good, and then you go into work the next day, and everyone's like, no, you gotta stick with it. It gets really good at episode 45. And you're like, that's not good TV. If I have to spend 45 hours to wait till, you know, a character says something or
But
does
then I
something.
would have, listen, that was me with the latest season of The White Lotus.
But different,
And
because they
what's the
dropped
difference?
one at a time.
Sure,
Do
they
you know
dropped
what I
one
mean?
at a time, but
so
I
then you're
didn't
like,
have
it's
to
going to
go
get better.
back.
It's going to get better.
I thought that nothing could compare to season 2. I thought nothing's going to compare to season 2. By the way, you can watch it on Crave.
Nice.
And then everybody started watching it, and everybody was talking about
Yeah.
it. I missed a couple of weeks, and I was like, I don't know, I'm not into it. It did only hit for me like halfway through. I'm so glad I didn't quit it.
That's it.
Okay, I'm so glad because it's so good, you guys.
Listen, I get our time is valuable, but there's something to be said about perseverance. There's a real power in it, and there's a reward at the end sometimes. And you know what?
You're reaching here.
No. Most
We're not talking about
books.
finishing your degree.
Listen,
Let's hear her out.
hear me out. Most books and TV shows, they get better as time goes on. Seinfeld is a very good example of this. The beginning of Seinfeld was not that good. And as it went on, Breaking Bad, another good example, White Lotus, another good. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time. You got to respect the artist's work. This is why my husband and I can't watch shows together, because he's out so quick. He's like, oh, they jumped the shark, I'm done.
Yeah.
Okay, that's unrealistic. He literally will walk away, and I'm like, hello.
Yeah,
give
let's
it a chance.
But what about books? What about
Here's
books?
the whole point of books and TV shows is for enjoyment. So if you're not enjoying yourself, why are you continuing to watch this stupid show? Bail out of it. We have so many other options. It's not like back in the day where you had to like get up and go turn the knob, remember? I'm really aging myself on this show today. If you didn't like something, it's like now you can just be like, no, I'm just gonna head to another thing and I'll watch something else. I say it's even harder for people who are producing stuff. You've got 10 minutes to get me. And if I don't like it, I'm on to the next thing.
What is that doing to us, though, as a generation? What is that doing?
Have we become the
just
TikTok generation?
Maybe.
10 seconds and you're out?
You know what, but for me, this started back in high school when I had all of those books in high school. I'm sorry, they were so boring. And I hated reading them. And I'm just like, but I had to because there was an assignment at the end. But what I would do, I'd be like, I'm just gonna skim through, read the Coles notes, and we're gonna write this essay and get an easy A. And now, as an adult where there's no assignment, I'm like, why would I put myself through this? There's no assignment, there's no payoff. Next show.
I have to say, for books, I find a little bit different because I will give, there's a grace period when I'm reading a book. I give it 50 to 75 pages, and then if I'm not loving it, I will check out. But there are times when let's say it's a book where I feel like it's a book I should read, like To the Lighthouse. Is that the name of Virginia Woolf? Okay. I've picked that up probably 3 or 4 or 5 times throughout my life and put it down.
Why?
Like, this is dumb. What's everyone talking about? I don't know, because it's kind of like that, like a book, like Never Seen Citizen Kane or something. It's like,
because somebody told you that you should like it.
She's a sucker, but listen to the end.
Okay.
I picked it up last summer. I'm like, oh, one more time. It was at a cottage free book, and I was like, okay. And I couldn't stop reading it. So what I'm trying to say is sometimes our enjoyment of something has more to do with us than the book or the television or the film.
Good point.
Like where you are in your life.
You're blaming the victim. Okay. Fine. Victim of your bad art. Okay, fine. Blame me. I'll take it.
Subscribe to the Social Podcast so you don't miss a fiery debate. Until next time, socialites.